fun doing this because you, Mike, and Travis all handle this process very differently.
Really?
Yeah. I got accustomed to Ali's style of this. And then at one point, Travis was doing it and then Mike was doing it. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Hi, I'm Easton Selby. I'm Associate Dean in the Edwards College of Humanities and Fine Arts, and welcome to another Thursday live cultural arts at a distance event. Today we have Professor Kevin Ferguson. He's a lecturer in our Department of Theater. Kevin received his MFA in playwriting with a concentration in dramaturgy from Hollins University Playwrights Lab. He's a member of the Dramatists Guild of America and the Literary Managers and Dramaturgs of America. He is the playwright in residence at Atlantic Stage in Myrtle Beach, where his plays Child's Play, Spinning Jenny, and A Thing with Feathers premiered. He is also the former National Playwright-in-Residence at the Tesseract Theatre Company in St. Louis, Missouri, where his plays A Thing with Feathers and Orders both were workshopped. He's won several national regional playwriting awards, including the Kennedy Center Award for his one-act play Losing Sight. Today, we are fortunate to have Kevin come in, and he's going to do an interactive process for playwriting. So any of you that are watching this or participating in this, please comment and participate both in Instagram and Facebook, because you guys are going to do something fairly interesting with Kevin today. Kevin's also, I'd like to do a plug for Kevin teaches in our foundations. Our core foundation program, and he teaches very specifically our VPA 103 class, which is a topics-based curriculum, and he's going to talk about that today. So Kevin, thank you for being here. I really appreciate this. Exciting to see you and that you're doing well. So let's participate in some playwriting.
All right. Hi. When I was first asked if I'd be willing to do this Edwards Live thing, my first thought was, why me? Why me? Because I'm not a visual artist, and I don't paint or draw or sculpt, and I don't have a product to show you, and I'm not a musician, so I don't play or sing, and you wouldn't want me to, and I don't act, or dance. I write. I'm a playwright. See, I wore the shirt, so you knew. I'm a playwright, and currently I'm, like Easton said, South Carolina's playwriting fellow, and I'm a dramaturg, a job in the theater you've probably never heard of before. And I teach playwriting and dramaturgy in the theater department at Coastal, yes. So here, you can watch me. You can watch me work now. You can watch me work my art. So there we go. What? Is this not very exciting to see? Well, believe it or not, there are websites where you can tune into the website and watch playwrights writing a play. But if you do that, and if you were to watch me write a play, you would find that I would forget you were there. Everything would fade away, and I'd be in another world, because that's what I do. Is I create another world. So Dorothy Parker once said, "I hate writing. I love having written, but I don't hate writing." When I'm writing, I kind of lose track of time, and I kind of get into the world of my play. So sometimes it's hard to get started if I've been away from a play for a while working on teaching projects. But once I'm in the zone, I just forget everything. And I love playwriting. I love writing. I love it. I love teaching students to unlock their voice. There's a vulnerability in writing. There's an element of self-revelation in writing. And some students find that challenging. Other students don't. That finding your voice part, that's the hardest thing to do. and it's the hardest thing to quantify. And in education, we're all about quantifying things. So half of the process of teaching playwriting is helping students to find their voice. The other half is giving them the tools and the skills they need to be able to, in my case, craft a play while they're finding their voice, in the process of finding their voice. So, and a lot of students just don't do unlocking their voice right away, but they learn technical skills that will help them when they're ready later to do that. So at Coastal, who takes a playwriting class? Well, the short answer is anybody that wants to. Anybody that's interested in taking a playwriting class comes out and takes the playwriting class. But I have a lot of theater majors who, even if playwriting isn't their first focus, want to take playwriting to sort of learn how a play is put together and to be able to learn the skill to put one together themselves. I have a lot of creative writing majors, theater majors and minors. Anyone who's interested in writing scripted entertainment comes out and takes this class. So the technical skills that we work on include character creation, dialogue creation, story creation, setting creation, and conflict. Because humans are strange creatures. We're very strange. We do not enjoy stories without conflict. And think about that. It's surprising, but think about that. If I were to write a play about happy people who populate a play and who all get along and who have no problems and who love each other, you would get bored. You would not watch this. It would not last long. But if I write a play about unhappy people who don't get along, who are trying to become happy people, but don't know how to do it, and are striving to overcome something, that you'll watch. So let's do a little exercise together. I'm going to ask you to do something with me. We're sort of an experiment right now. I'm going to put up a program called Final Draft, which I encourage students to purchase. They don't have to, but they can, for you to see. And I'm going to ask you, bear with me here. Okay. This is a program. It will not write a play for you, but it will format a play for you automatically. So one of the things I teach in playwriting is formatting a play, which surprises many students because proper formatting is different from publisher formatting. So formatting a new play is not the way a play looks when you buy something in a store, because the publisher of a published play has designed it to save as much space and use as little paper as possible to save money on printing. But new play formatting is about ease of reading for directors and designers and actors. So let's see, we will. Oh, do not save. We will write a play together. So let's do our shared Edwards live play. Okay, somebody out there who's listening, give me a setting description. So any setting description at all. Just tell me a time and a place, and I will pop that in there. And I'm told we have a tiny little bit of a delay. So if you see me, yay, because it gives me time to collect my thoughts. But if you see me waiting and wondering, anybody out there who's listening, anybody at all, type in a time and a place. All right, so I'm going to do Waccamaw River in the evening because that was first, and Italian Mother's Kitchen popped up second. You know what? Both of those would be great plays. Living Room Early Morning, Fundraising Gala, all of these things. We're going to go with Waccamaw River in the Evening. So you get to see my typos. All right, Waccamaw. Wow. Why am I having trouble spelling? This does happen. Waccamaw River Evening. The moon has risen and the sky shines in the night. All right, so we wrote a little description. We have a place. We have a place. We have a time. We might not know whether it's your house, April 2020, Don Baker, thank you. So we might not know the month yet, but we're going to see where we go. Okay, we've got a place. Somebody give me a character. Just describe a character. Any character. I'm gonna wait. Yes, it is hard to type when people are watching. Patricia Van Os, yay, thank you. Anybody give me a character, pop a character up there. Doesn't have to be an enormous description. And by the way, we don't have to have people because we're writing theater. We could do a play. I'm not saying do this. I'm not telling you what to do. But just as an idea, at the Waccamaw River, we could have a dog and a cat who got together and they're talking about a retired man who's gardening. So okay, so we have he. All right, so we have a situation that you've created. So thank you very much. So we have Jonathan Wentz, who went retired man who loves to garden. And we have Patricia Van Os, who has said a homeless woman who lives by the river. So we are going to have an encounter. Yes, many other people have named things. We're going to have an encounter between this retired man who's a gardener out for a stroll at night on the Waccamaw River. The moon has risen. It's a bright sky. And he encounters a homeless woman who lives by the river. Okay, so we have a time, we have a place, we have two characters, and we're going to stop with two. So I want you to think for a minute, based on where these people are and who these people are, how do you imagine they would speak? So that's what dialogue is like. So we have the Waccamaw River. We could assume that they're Southern. Retired man, we could assume he's older because he's retired. And homeless woman could be any age. It depends upon what you're imagining. So we're going to write an encounter between the retired man who loves to garden and the homeless woman who lives by the river. Some sample dialogues. Okay, but remember, we're working on technical skills here. And we've started out with a setting and two characters, and we're thinking about, okay, what would the dialogue be? Who are these people? When you're writing a play, sometimes the first thing that you come to is an image that pops into your head. So if anyone knows August Wilson's play Fences, he started with an image that came to him in a dream of a very big man with a tiny little baby, and he was holding it in a yard that had a picket fence. And that's where Fences started from. He didn't know anything else about his story yet, but he knew that was going to be in that play. Arthur Miller started Death of a Salesman with a name, Loman, and this sense of existential dread that he got from watching a movie that had a character named Loman in it. Equus, written by Peter Schaefer, started with a Peter Schaefer driving down the road with a friend in the car with him, and the friend was telling him a story about a boy who blinded a horse, and he crafted this play. So we can start with a lot of things. And we're going to start here with this image of the river at night with the moon having risen, the sun shining brightly in the sky. And Mindy has asked that the homeless woman speak in metaphor rather than regular dialogue. So we're going to challenge ourselves to do that. So why not? So somebody give me conflict, because I said that we cannot have, even though in real life that would be lovely, we're not going to have a happy little encounter where the retired man meets the homeless woman and they smile and pass and everything's hunky-dory. We're going to put them in conflict of some kind. Now, before you start, I want you to think about two things. Conflict isn't always about fighting. So we do not necessarily have to have them engaged in a fight. In a play, you could have a mother and daughter who love each other very, very much, and the daughter is sick, and the mom wants her to stay in because she's afraid she'll get sicker if she goes out, and the daughter wants to go out and power through because she wants to live her life. This is conflict, but there's probably a lot of little fights because it's mother and daughter, but it's not a big fight. It's a loving relationship. Same thing. When I'm teaching this class, I talk a lot about you can have two college roommates and one slice of pizza left, and they both want it. There's conflict. Doesn't have to be an enormous fight. So, okay, we're going to do that. What sort of conflict should we have? I'm saying, okay, I could make them different races. And that's certainly something about our current time that would be an apropos storyline. A man could be frightened of the woman. Okay, so I've got a bunch of good ideas. The woman knows the older man from the past, and he doesn't want to acknowledge this. We could have, she could be standing in his garden. They're starting to find each other. Yes, they're starting to find each other alone. Okay, so here we go. So, retired gardener. Typos, they bother me. And still I do them. As a retired gardener. Give up is startled to see a woman. She seems to recognize him and starts to speak. He is alarmed. Alarmed. And okay, we're just gonna have to live with my typos because I'm doing this too fast. Okay, so we have the beginning of a conflict. And by the way, this is a very simple conflict, which is that she wants a conversation and he wants to get away as quickly as possible. Hello, and there's a bunch of lovely character stuff that I'm seeing here. So they could be brother and sister who took different paths. They could be lonely. She could be lonely, just wants to talk to somebody. All of these things are good things. Okay, so she's going to speak first because she wants to talk and he doesn't. Somebody give her a name. Names are important. When you have, we're not going to call them man and woman, although some people do that when they have a short little play, but we're going to give them a name. So what should we call her? What should we call this woman? Anybody? Rose. Rose it is. All right, so. Somebody out there give me a line. Now, wait, before we do that, before we start on dialogue, we know, like superficially, what Rose wants is to talk. All right, she's alone, she's been alone, she sees somebody, she wants to talk, she recognizes them. We know that he doesn't want to talk, he just wants to get away. Okay, so we're gonna put some restrictions on Jasmine. I got Rose. Funny, you guys are all going for like flowers because it's like this, the river setting at night, which is lovely. Yep, people are going to flowers for them. That's cool. This is going to be a short play. Just maybe a few lines, just a couple of minutes. So we have to introduce our characters, introduce a conflict, raise the stakes, have a climactic moment. You're all going, yep, and resolve this in just a few lines. So somebody give me a line for Rose. What is she going to say? What is her opening line going to be? It's about time you showed up. Okay. Okay, somebody give me a name for the retired gardener, and we'll give him a name. Ooh, I like that. Have you seen my moon? Okay, Penny, I'm going to use your line, but we need a name for the gardener. I'll come up with one, but Max it is. Max it is. All right, so Max, by the way, very nice name for if we're setting up a Fred and Hosmer, good names too. All right, what's Max going to reply? It's about time you showed up. Have you seen my moon? He thinks I'm not naming him a Green Lantern named Sean McCord. Yes, I just identified myself as a really big comic book geek, but I do know who Guy Gardner is. So it's about time you showed up. Have you seen my moon? Max, who was startled to see a homeless person, is struggling to get away. What's he going to say? No one has thoughts. Okay, I can do it. I will supply a line to get us going. It's about time you showed up. Have you seen my moon? Okay, your moon, which is a good one. No one owns the moon. All right, so I've taken some of your suggestions and I've put the intent of them there. Your moon, no one owns the moon. I own this land. You're trespassing. All right, Max, he's apparently a pretty literal guy so far. What's Rose? Nice Rose, who's a dreamily homeless woman who says, have you seen my moon? What's next? Anybody with thoughts? See, writing is hard. So now you've got to, of course not, I don't own it, I just visit. Ugh. Okay, I just did something there. I like that line too. I mean, the Homer grew up here, but we've got Rose. Of course not. I don't own it. I just visit, just like you don't own this land, Max. Okay, Rose now knows Max's name, something that Max will be surprised at. Because you decided that in your story, you wanted Rose to know Max, but Max not to recognize Rose. So here we are. So she's just thrown out, and now the audience knows too. All right, the audience has figured out, because we used the words, have you seen my moon? Max is a landowner. Doesn't really know, there's no way for the audience to know Max is a gardener yet, but we could give them away. So Max, what's he gonna say? I'm gonna take something that Jonathan said for Rose, and I'm gonna give it to Max, and I'm gonna go. So Max is gonna say, I grew up here. All right. Again, so I'm gonna give all right, so I care for the lands. I care for the moon. Getting great responses. How do you know my name? Maybe the moon told me. Okay, so, we've basically got an introduction. All right, so maybe they're siblings. Maybe. You get to decide. That's the thing about creating a world, creating your own story. You get to decide. You'd also get to change things. Okay, so we've got all of this going on. Does Max need something from Rose? Does Rose need something from Max? These are all things that you would be figuring out. It would be really evil of me if I didn't finish this with you, wouldn't it? If we didn't reach a climactic moment, you would be unsatisfied with it. And that's the thing about plays. If you don't take the audience through a satisfying journey, if you don't get them through the introductory part to the climactic part with a little bit of resolution, they're going to be upset with you. Now, sometimes you can give somebody something open-ended that they're left going, oh, let me think about that. But most of the time, we want to know stuff. So these are all good suggestions. Okay. Okay, here's the thing about a play like this, which I didn't have any idea what you were going to write when we started this exercise. I've got plenty of good stuff there. Rose is Max's sister that he never knew about. Max is going to say he wants to be left alone. I'm going to tell you right now that in a story in a play, You know, in real life, when somebody says, I want to be left alone, they might really want to be left alone. In a play, if somebody says they want to be left alone, they don't want to be left alone, they're lonely, and they want a human connection, because that's the way we tell a story. So we might end this with, oh, I don't know. What sort of connect we got? We've got siblings. Okay, siblings. We could do that. Okay. Okay. Ooh, we've gotten dark. So Rose saw Max bury something. Some seeds. So. All right. Ah, so you might. All right, so we can go in this direction. So we can go here. All right. So now we're going to lead to, that's going to lead up to wow, we've gotten really melodramatic, guys. But yeah, we're going to wrap this up. So you do know me. Yeah. See, there you go. Change lines, maybe. I'm sorry. I love that line. I didn't come here for philosophy. Would you kindly move your feet off my rutabagas? Okay. Yep, very trite stuff, but there we go. As long as I'm in the sky, we have hope. I didn't come here for philosophy. All right, I have abruptly resolved this play. And somebody just said they literally just learned they love playwriting. Oh, yay, yay, yay. Oh, that makes me so happy. You can write your own stories. So I know, trite, less than 2 pages, but I'm gonna move on. But this is it. This is what playwriting is. You just created a place, a time, a situation, two people, you threw them into conflict. We sort of hurriedly resolved their conflict. You know, I didn't come here for philosophy, get off your feet off my rutabagas and get in the house, we'll catch up. Okay. But this is what it's like. This is the art of storytelling. You come up with people, you come up with places, you come up with situations, and you tell a story. So I'm going to put that aside for a second. So you wrote a play. We wrote a play together. You can say you're a playwright. You can all say you've participated in writing a play now. So I am about a little over the halfway point, and I can answer questions. But I'm going to switch hats first and talk a little bit about dramaturgy, because that's another thing that I teach, and it's a thing you've probably never heard of before. Dramaturgs, like playwrights, are sort of the nerds of the theater world, and it's not an oxymoron. I wear the nerd badge with pride, by the way. So a new play dramaturg is someone who works with a playwright, a person who does what we just did. If you've ever written anything, a paper, a poem, a short story, anything, and handed it to someone you thought would give you good feedback, then you kind of have an idea of what a dramaturg does. Dramaturgs talk to playwrights about the playwright's process, read their work as they create a play, give them feedback, maybe help with research. They do a lot of other things as well. So there's dramaturgs who work with people creating new plays. And then there are production dramaturgs who work with a director. We, and I say we because I do this, we analyze the script, we do research on the background of the script for the play and the background of the playwright. And we find a lot of images and inspiration for the directors and designers. We usually have something tangible called a dramaturgical casebook that we put together that we can then present to the director and the designers and the cast. And it sort of lets them know, well, everything about the world of the play, what period references mean. You'll find that a lot of 20-year-old actors who are doing a play set in the 1920s are not familiar with the 1920s slang or the dance steps that were popular in the 1920s or etiquette in the 1920s or music of the 1920s. So the dramaturg is, okay, I'm going to present you with this information so that you have it to help you with your character. Sometimes you might arrange a class. Okay, you're a socialite from the 30s. Here's an etiquette class. You're doing a play about a silent meditation retreat where no one speaks. Well, then I'm going to send you on a silent meditation retreat where no one speaks. Or edible dramaturgy, which is my favorite, because I like edible dramaturgy. So I've made an Irish fisherman's meal for a play set on a rural, isolated Irish island. I've cooked the Cratchit Christmas dinner for a cast doing a Christmas carol. A dramaturg typically writes the program notes that are in the lobby. Well, the lobby display that's in the lobby, the program notes for the program that puts out there, runs the talkbacks after the play for the audience. Dramaturgs are basically collaborators who support all the other theater artists and sort of give them a buffet of options for them to choose from as they create a play for an audience. So I teach classes in both of these areas. I teach playwriting courses. I teach a dramaturgy course. I also teach VPA, Visual and Performing Arts courses. And in the fall, there'll be a VPA course that's on theater in general, and there'll be a VPA course that's on LGBTQ theater specifically. So if you're interested in a course on LGBTQ theater, queer theater, that's VPA 103E1. And I'd be happy to see you in any of my classes, friends that are tuning in. This is a very odd way to talk to anything. So, okay, there are some questions out there. Do you map out your work or does it come to you as you write? Well, here's where I become pedantic because there are two ways to approach playwriting, and I have used both ways. And actually, just because of who I am as a human being, I do a lot of times map out my work. So if you're working from an Apollonian, isn't that a fancy way of saying it, from Apollo, style of playwriting, then you create an outline. You're like, okay, I know this needs to happen, and I know this needs to happen, and this is my climax, and this is how it's going to end and begin, and all of these things, you map it out. Now, there's some strengths to that, because if you map out your work as a playwright, then you know where you're going, and you can write one step that leads to another step and that leads to another step in a very linear fashion. The weakness is that sometimes if you have a really cool thing, then it doesn't quite fit into your plan. The other way of working is you can do a real Dionysian style of writing, which means you just sit down and you write, oh, whatever comes to me, that's what I'm going to type. But that can lead you, like, it's just like if you don't have a roadmap, you've just decided you're going to take a road trip and throw the map out and go where you're going to go. You can take a lot of interesting side trips that you end up not being able to use because ultimately it didn't serve, okay, what you in the end decided what your story was. Okay, so I got a good question about, do you feel any larger obligation for the message of the play? I find, and you're going to find that most people will tell you, if you start out going, I want to write a play about a message, then it's not going to be a great play. Some people will write it, I have a message, I'm going to write a great play, but that's because they have this innate sense of storytelling. But for the most part, you need a story first. Like when we just sat down with this little thing that we just did about Rose and Max, we had no idea what we were going to write. We had a place first, Wakama in the Moonlight. And then we had people, okay, this retired gardener and this homeless woman. And then we sort of went to, if we had really started to develop this could have said something about lost relationships and about class differences. If we made them different races, it could have been about racial differences. It could have gone in a lot of different directions, which would have had an interesting message. But you didn't start out saying, I'm going to do a message play. You started out saying, I'm going to tell a story. So there we go about that. Do I prefer production dramaturgy or new play dramaturgy? Do you find that one is more difficult? I love production dramaturgy for different reasons than I like new play dramaturgy. I find new play dramaturgy harder than production dramaturgy. And the reason why is it's very tempting with new play dramaturgy, and people who know me are going to be like, oh, you fall into this trap a few times. It's very difficult with new play dramaturgy not to see in your mind what this play could be and meet the playwright where they are now at that moment with that play. So you have to always remember it's the playwright's play, it's not your play, and it's going to go where they want it to go, where they need it to go. And you could suggest to them, look, here are all the places this play could go, but it's really up to them and not you ultimately where the play goes. And that's the thing about being a dramaturg in general, is you are not making the artistic choices. You are offering options to artists who are making artistic choices. And that sort of restraint is sometimes pretty hard. So if I outline, do I have to be prepared for the play to take a different tack? Well, you don't have to be prepared for the play to take a different tack, but when it does, I would say that you need to be ready to throw that stuff out and go. Don't consider anything you've written precious. Sometimes playwrights fall in love with things they've written, and then they look at it and they go, oh, that was so great, and it does not serve the play, so it ends up getting cut. A lot of the work in playwriting comes later in the revision and the editing process, because at first what we just did was knock out the beginnings of a first draft, and pretty much all of that in a revision process would change. Okay, so in the world of derived work and creative situations and social justice work, how do you balance that with storytelling? Well, the balancing act is difficult. I mean, but the main thing is you have to return to the storytelling, because you're not going to get your message out there if you don't have a story that people are going to watch to its conclusions. Oh, which students would make a great playwright and a dramaturg? Okay, this is going to sound weird. I'm not interested in creating the great playwright or the great dramaturg. Now, I know that sounds weird, but I'm interested in meeting a student where they are and teaching them skills and having them discover for themselves what's inside them and what direction they want to do. I have had students that I do think would be absolutely great dramaturgs and just be fantastic at it. And they went on to design props because that's what they wanted to do. And they're great at designing props. But by learning the skills of dramaturgy, it really helped them to do their own dramaturgical work in prop design. I've had students who I thought were magnificent playwrights that really what they wanted to do was continue on the stage as a performer. But they still write their own work and they perform it for themselves. And they've learned those skills of further, because they can write a story themselves. They know what the stories are about when they read them that other people have written that they interpret. All right, every teacher wants to discover and to nurture the great playwright and the great dramaturg and whatever, but it's not, every student isn't that. In a production dramaturgy situation, how much do you honor past productions and the conventions that have grown up around them? That's not my decision, which is good. That's a director's choice. So if I work with a director who is absolutely determined that they're going to take this past production, this play that's been done before, and they're going to tell the story in a completely new way, I might show them the essential things that are common from past productions, but then also all of the elements that because they want to change them. But then there are other directors who are like, I don't want to copy this play, but I really want to stick with the tradition for various reasons, including that they could be teaching actors and designers, student actors and designers. And so you work with the director's choice. Oh, you asked an EVO question. Are characters based on people in my real life? And if my work is autobiographical? They're all fictional. And my advice to young playwrights is to deny that any character is based on your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister or your best friend. You're gonna write characters that have traits from all of these people because they're who you know, especially in the beginning. And you're gonna draw on things from your own life, but in the end, it's a story. Unless you've really sat down to go, this is the story of my family, then you change it. Look, Tennessee Williams wrote a play called The Glass Menagerie, and it was very plainly his mama and his sister and him. And on opening night, his mama had a huge screaming fit with him in the back room. And when they came out of that back room, she owned 50% of the royalties. So don't do that thing unless you want to give mama 50% of the royalties. So there you go. Do you deal with things that may be traumatic for actors within the story? Yes, you do. But nowadays, there are people that you can bring in. Their intimacy, well, they have different names: directors, coordinators, choreographers to bring in. There are fight choreographers to bring in. because you need to handle anything that's physical very, very carefully. Now, again, it's going to be a director's choice what to do. But as a dramaturg, you can certainly bring to the table, these are the things in this play that I think could bring up a lot of emotional responses in the actors. And these are the people that we can bring in to do a session with them that can help them deal with any potentially traumatic situation or triggering event. But then if I know in advance as a dramaturg, that's the situation in a production dramaturgy situation, I'm also going to be saying, I'm going to need in my production note to tell the audience that there are some potentially triggering or traumatic things that are going to be portrayed on stage, not to spoil the story, not to tell them what it is, but to say, you should, this is the work that we've done in preparation for this, and this is a part of our story. So yes. So there we go. Okay, that seems to be all of the typed questions that I'm seeing. Let me see if there are any questions from anybody else. I'm looking at the chat. Nope. Don't have any other questions. All right. Well, I'm awfully glad that you spent your afternoon, your noon lunch hour with me talking about playwriting and working on this little play with you. If there's no more questions, I guess will I make the play available? I certainly, oh wait, oh God. Yay, I didn't delete it. It didn't accidentally get deleted. And here's another thing that's important. Okay, playwriting thing that you need to know. Save as you write. On this program, every 2 seconds it was saying, do you want to save this? And if I had said yes, then I would have had to have stopped and saved it initially and made a whole thing for it, and it would have taken a few minutes of folderol, so I didn't do that. But I still have it, and I can absolutely make this play fragment available so that people can see it. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? I'm a teacher, so I can babble for like 9 more minutes really easily because I got 9 more minutes. Unlike a regular classroom, though, I can't make you stay. There's 2 others. 2 others. 2 others what? Okay, let me go back. Yay, yay. Make space. Oh, yay, questions. So, can I see future CCU or piece of it written by me or another student? That's up to the people in the CCU theater department who decide what our season is going to be, and that's not me. But that would be lovely. Do I have to take into consideration space where your play is going to produce? You should, and you shouldn't. When you're writing for like yourself immediately, and unless like you're like a big time playwright who you already know, oh, I've been commissioned by the Goodman, then you're writing for probably a smaller space. So it's more difficult to write big space plays when you don't necessarily have access to big plays. You can see me stuttering and sputtering. Okay, here's the deal. You're less likely to get a play produced, especially as an initial playwright, if you have a cast of 20 and you need to land a helicopter on the stage, and at some point, 5 to 10 characters need to fly. Not going to get produced by very many small theaters. But if you have a more intimate play with, say, 4 to 6 characters even, that can be done in a smaller space as easily as a larger space, more likely somebody's going to do a reading or that kind of thing. Okay, I'm getting people go, Plug your plays. I'm a playwright. I've written plays. Some of them are published. You can find them. You can Google me. I have a website, all that stuff. Yes, I would love to meet you for drinks later. Okay. Now I have 7 minutes. 7 minutes to tap dance. I'm not going to tap dance. Those of you who are wondering. So, anything here? Okay, I'm cooked. I think that the play is done. Unless there's more questions, I'm kind of good. Don't want to leave you on. Oh, somebody's put into the chat my website. Yeah, I have a couple of plays that are published. Child's Play is published. It's being translated into German and hopefully will be done in Germany someday. I have The Losing Sight, the play that won the Little Tiny Kennedy Center Award a million years ago when I was in grad school, is being translated into Farsi. I'm in a couple of anthologies for, best plays of this, that, and the other, little publishing things. My goal has never been to light up Broadway. There are other people whose goal is definitely light up Broadway. My goal has always been to write for my theater company, which is Atlantic Stage. And then if other theaters were interested in my work, giving it to them to do, it's really weird to I fulfilled my goal. My Atlantic Stage has produced most of my plays that I consider finished plays, and they have either been published or produced by other theaters or are in the process of being published. So I'm pretty creatively satisfied. And I also like to teach. It's sort of you have to sort of divide your time when you teach and write. Thank you all for coming. I could babble for 5 more minutes, or somebody could stop.